Hello all. Oh, looks a bit of a state that, doesn't it? This is my old and well-used whetstone sharpening station which lived in an L box. That's not mould all over it, it's a sludge build-up from the stones. Made from ply and pine, it was designed to store my 4 preferred stones, 600, 1000, 3000 and 10,000 grit, on their side for storage in the box, then pulled out as needed and sat on top. Everything had its place, including a granite reference, and was mobile. Hell, it even had its own stone bath / drip tray. Thing is though, mobile isn't a requirement anymore, and I'm getting past the experience of opening the sharpening station's L box each week and being confronted with the rusty tray and sludge covered ply. This design has served me well, but I think I can do better. This sharpening station build is to be the first of a mini-series where I'm playing around with aluminium profile extrusion for helpful bits around the workshop. Where my old sharpening station was designed to fit in an L box, what's leading the layout of the new one is this new bit of granite, twice the size of the old, which will benefit flattening the stones. And yes, I have checked this granite with a precision straight edge. Left over from some now defunct portable work tables I made years ago, I have a whole mess of 2020 alley extrusion. 2020 simply meaning it's 20 by 20mm in profile, all with a 6mm slot. The pieces laid out here will make a subframe using these corner brackets with flat sliding T-nuts and 8mm M5 hex screws. Assembling the screws, nuts and brackets first, you just slide onto the profile from each direction. Can be a bit fiddly if you've got sausage fingers like me. And then to the often equally as fiddly operation of tightening down. I should mention here that these corner brackets won't guarantee you a square corner. You may want to use corner plates if that's what you're after, but in this instance, exact square is not necessary for me. Just like that, subframe complete. I use a good deal of alley plate in my furniture for fixing upholstery, so I've lots of leftover bits like this. This is 4mm plate and I'm going to cut it on the miter saw for some small brackets. I've screwed it down as small bits of alley can get a bit jumpy in the saw. Bandsaw's the safest option, but mine's set up for another job right now. A high tooth count crosscut wood saw blade is fine for occasional cuts in alley. You only need to invest in a speciality blade if you're doing a lot. Sliding T set up again in my little bracket. I've one each end. Quick line up, then tighten. More sliding T's and one of the top sections of profile can be slid on. These will both clamp the frame to the granite and serve as a stone rest. To add the second bit of profile, I've had to get a bit creative with a corner bracket, some spacers and a little alley plate. The spacers there just to stand off from screw heads, it gets slid onto the profile as per. To attach it to the subframe, I'll be using these little drop-in T-nuts. They're the get out of jail free card for any extrusion build. As the name suggests, these will simply drop into the slot, then as you turn to tighten, the wings will grip the profile. The little plates you see there are gauging the placement. These are what will hold the stones, as we'll see shortly. Always worth a double check with a drop-in T-nut that it's actually turned in the slot and is gripping. Okay, so you know the drill now, I'm sure. I've drilled appropriate holes in the alley plates and added sliding T's and M5 screws. The sliding T's mean they're all movable, but once I've set them, my stones being the same dimensions, I should be able to just leave them be. Rough measure for centre, I square the centre plate. I think it's important to at least get this one square. The outside two can just be set with the stones themselves. Final thing before it's functional is adding a couple of plates for clamping sanding sheets the other side. Having rummaged around my bits box, I found a couple of pieces of chunky 8mm alley plate which will be perfect. The number of holes gives away that these have done their rounds as brackets on previous creations. There's one of these at each end. So what you see here then is the complete build really. The benefit for me is that this setup can be hosed down if need be, submerged even, so much more easily cleaned. Plus I have a nice large reference to flatten the stones on as part of the setup. The easier these things are to access and clean, the more likely you'll use them. I mean, my want of sharp edges makes me do it regularly anyway, but this makes it less of a chore. The stones are clamped friction tight, so easily swapped out. Most of the time though, the 3000 and 10,000 will stay in there as they are what I use most for a quick re-edge and polish. Should I need to bring a blade back from the dead, the lower grits and even my 400 grit diamond plate can be quickly swapped in. As if by magic, it fits neatly into one of my shelf storage trays which can double as a bath for soaking stones or just cleaning down. Joining it are my bamboo well and ladle, my little nagura and other stones and plates, and a box of sundries with my Marmite jar oiler and honing guides. I don't use these honers much, but in case anyone's interested, when I do use them, I'll use the Kel for chisels, as its two wheels help with balance on the more narrow blades, whereas the Irwin, with its central roller, I'll use for plane irons, as the central roller allows me to utilise more of the stone. Refacing some stones here using 120 grit, which is harsher than I'd like. I like to use a 240 grit roll, but I was awaiting delivery on that. No biggie. They'll still be flat and conditioned with the Nagura before use. As I mentioned at the beginning though, I'll be doing a few more of these profile extrusion builds in the next couple of months. I'll also be giving my routing machine an overhaul and service this winter, so hopefully the last video in the series will be me announcing an actual parts list and build instructions should anyone want to attempt building one. Whether you were to use profile for the things I build or not is not really the point of this series. I'm just hoping to share with you how useful I find the stuff. I often refer to it as Big Boys Mechano, and like Mechano and Lego, after a while you'll find yourself, like me, with a whole bunch of parts that can be disassembled and remade anew to suit your work and needs. It's great stuff. I get a lot of the sundries, screws, nuts, etc. from Ooze Nest, who I'll link below. Ooze Nest also offer a cutting service for the profile itself, and they'll even tap the ends for you if that's needed. It's also worth checking eBay and Marketplace for bundles of extrusion. Indeed, I bought all this grey 2020 stuff as a used bundle for about a third of retail a few years ago. I think it was around 18 metres of it. A lot of companies use it for displays at events and happy to be rid of it when they're done. It's a great way to get started with it. Hope this has been interesting to you then. Any questions or comments on this build, fire away below. Also let me know if you've any questions on alley extrusion I could maybe cover in a future episode too. Like if you did, sub if you aren't already, thanks button is there if you want to contribute in that way, and as always, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching.